Here is a sketch of Sanji, brothers and sisters. Remember to follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook as I premiere or debut, I guess, show off this artwork first on those three sites. One Piece, Chapter 61, The Daemon. Well, hello, my brothers and sisters of the Nerd Nation. I, as always, am Jim, here to bring you another review on the epic and awesomely woven tale of One Piece. Our last chapter really left us with the action had started finally. Finally, the gun was no longer to Red Leg Zeph's head, and basically the short and skinny of it is that Sanji and Gin are going toe to toe, and the chapter ends with Gin, just kind of starting to whip Sanji's ass up and down the deck with his tonfas. Now, a couple of folks commented about how and they're called tonfas. It's a Japanese. I'm aware of what a tonfa is. However, and correct me if I'm wrong, a tonfa is actually the nightstick that I was describing. A tonfa does not have a metal-looking ball on the end of it, as far as I know. Now, I may be wrong, but I wasn't aware of a tonfa. I always just thought was another word for a nightstick that like police use, or police baton, whatever they call those. So, anyways, let's dive right into it, though, shall we? The chapter starts out, and let me just preface this review by saying it's really nice. It's an action-packed. It's a very meaty chapter as far as just things kind of moving at a fast pace. This is one of those, like, get your heart going. You know what I mean? It really does. I mean, it just kind of gets the blood pumping, and it makes you just want to read another one and read another one. And I unfortunately don't have that luxury because in between I try to do these reviews. So it starts out. Gin is just kind of whipping Sanji all over the place. Whack and boom and and Sanji has already been beaten down pretty badly by Invincible Pearl when the gun was to the back of Red Leg's head. And, so Sanji is definitely not 100%, probably not even 50%, and somehow he still manages throughout this whole ordeal, and, wonderful to the power of comic books and how you can illustrate and do things. I always like this sort of thing. He has, throughout this whole beating, he still has his cigarette in his mouth, which I thought was funny. So, there's one point where Gin is, kind of like on top of him, and he's holding him down with one of the tonfas, and he goes to, whack him with the other one, and right as he goes to do that, Sanji spits his cigarette out at him, and it kind of hits him. It's off the side of his face, and I don't think it really hurts him much, but I think it more just kind of like it gets him to stutter or pause for a second. It screws up with his timing a little bit, maybe, because then Sanji's able to kind of flip out from underneath him, dodge the next attack with an artful flip, and then come across and just whap, with a nice kick right to the frickin' jaw. And you can tell that it definitely phased him, because even all the Don Krieg's crew are like, oh man, he got a kick in on Gin. And then somebody was like, somebody from the background, and I can just picture this guy, the naysayer, and he's just like, he's not going to be beat too, is he? Just thinking, Jesus, we've been getting our asses kicked all over the place, right? Invincible Pearl's gone down, who's next, right? Is it going to be Gin? And then we wind up getting a shot of Don Krieg, and Don Krieg's like, are you guys crazy? I made him my battle commander for a reason, Basically, Gin's he hasn't even come into his own yet, but he's my own cool-headed demon man, is what he says. He goes, he would torture a person to death even while they were screaming. And I mentioned this in the previous chapter and just said that, or a couple of chapters ago when we found out that he was the commander of the Battle Armada. And I basically said, like, he's pretty much he's the Darth Vader to the Emperor. You know what I mean? He's the right-hand man, the general. He's the one that carries out all the terrible orders of Don Krieg, without question. And is probably just a pretty despicable, SOB. But so I kind of like that whole exchange between them where, Don Krieg just sort of, pumped him up, but then at the same time said, hey, listen, this is how things are going to go down. Don't worry about him. He's my number one guy, right? So right then, Sanji goes and looks after he's being, kind of pumped up, right? And he goes, if you're the battle commander, he says to Gin, if you're the battle commander of this defunct armada, then maybe Don Krieg's pirates aren't as formidable as everyone thought. And it's basically just a slap in the face. It's kind of a, it's a big fuck you, Don Krieg. Fuck you, Gin. That's what it is, And I absolutely love it. This stuff is great, man. This is my Bible. Well, until I get to the next one, then that'll be my Bible. But just really, really cleverly and excellently written, because it really is. Whenever you are in any type of battle or fight or whatever, if you look throughout history and even in small little things, I unfortunately am not proud to say I've been in some fights and some altercations in my life. And, walking away is the hardest thing to do. I said that in a previous chapter. But one of the things when the shit's going to hit the fan, and even if you're outmatched like he is right here, one of the things that you can do, and that has been used throughout history to win, is to piss off and to anger your opponent, and to trick your opponent into thinking, because they have the upper hand, that anything they do is going to be successful. So what he's trying to do, because he goes and he kind of says to himself, he's thinking, that this guy is really tough, right? He's, even some of the cooks, the fighting cooks say, Sanji must have 5 or 6 broken ribs by now, and basically he's bloodied and beaten, right? But what he's going to do is he's going to go and he's going to try to cut him down, because even though he knows he can't win in a fair fight, if he can lure this ding-a-ling in to go and make an unwise move, or to do something uncharacteristic of what he would have, because all he's got to do is keep doing what he's doing and he'd win, right? But if you go and get under his skin and get him to go and do something out of the ordinary, or get him to go and stop and kind of start telling you and explaining himself, or whatever, just to make a mistake, he might have that opening to be able to get in there. And I really think that's kind of what he was going for with this. And the fact that he just wanted to let him know that, even though I may not make it through this, you're still a piece of shit, Gin. And that's what he's saying. So like I said, I really enjoyed it. At this point, Luffy goes and I'm sorry I got so long-winded on that. I'll get back into the chapter review. Luffy goes and then sees an opening and thinks that he can go and scurry across the fallen mast that is linking the wreckage of Don Krieg's ship and what's left of the deck and the Baratier as far as that goes. And he's going to go and kind of scamper across and try to surprise attack and nail Don Krieg, right? Well, Don Krieg sees it at the last second coming, and he's just like, yeah, no way, boy, and he pulls up his shield, and his shield kind of opens up, whatever, and Luffy's like, oh, crap, and then he goes and he fires out these, what can only be described as, I guess, like torpedoes, they're cannon type things that come out of and are hitting the water next to, and you got to picture Luffy, he can't swim, of course, and he's on this thin beam, right, that's precariously, hanging on both of the, sitting on both of the wrecks, basically. So he winds up kind of turning, because these explosions, start coming up and blowing water up, and obviously just the force of the explosion. So he turns around and starts trying to scurry away, and Don Krieg has now launched from his shield a bunch of stakes, basically, a bunch of spikes, wooden, metal, whatever the case is. They don't feel good. One of them nails Luffy right in the back of the leg, right, and he's and he almost slips and falls into the water. It's a real whoa, oh shit moment. They kind of show his foot, and he's about to go in, and we know he can't swim. There ain't nobody to save him, right? So anyway, he winds up getting and kind of scurrying back to the other side, and Don Krieg's like, ha ha ha, just talking his shit, being the big man that he thinks he is, and telling Luffy about this, and then Luffy's going, oh man, that hurt, and then he goes and he says something to the effect of, I'm Don Krieg. Luffy says, oh, you want to fight now? And Don Krieg says, I don't need a reason to fight, I just fight because it's in me, it's the battle, it's conquering, that's all what I do, right? And he says, all you can do is scurry at me like a little monkey, So clearly Luffy he doesn't really like that one, and he kind of gives him a, oh yeah, and he pulls his mouth open real big and basically kind of goes, like screw you. And he says, this monkey's gonna come and he's gonna, what does he say? This monkey, it's monkey. I'll show you how this monkey can scratch, So we know that things are gonna heat up between them. It winds up then going and going back to the battle that we have raging between Sanji and between Gin, and Gin goes and he's beating him down, and I mean even some of the cooks are saying, hey man, in addition to the broken ribs and getting his ass mopped by Pearl earlier, I mean Sanji has probably taken 10 or 12 hits from those from those tonfas, right? And I mean that can't feel good. So like I said, again, Sanji has, kind of mused to himself, like, man, this guy is just, unbeatable. Now, he still goes and talks shit to him and goes, because Gin's like, kind of like, haven't you had enough? And Sanji, calls him a little scoundrel again, and basically like a little whelp, a weakling. And, he calls him that again, and then says, and that's when he says in his head, and he's just like, man, this guy's really tough. And he's starting to realize that I'm probably not going to be able to beat him in, like, the legitimate, normal sense of it, He's going to need some help, or he's going to need to make a mistake. So anyway, Gin winds up going and coming at him, and then and Sanji kind of, like, jumps or whatever, and in the exchange, Sanji just kind of yells out, and he's like, what the hell? Why did you intentionally not hit me? And Gin winds up, missing and hitting the deck or whatever, and basically the shock from his own hit winds up kind of knocking him down or knocking him out temporarily, and even the cooks go and mention, they're like, he can't even handle the shock of his own attack. So Gin goes and gets back up, and he's just like, I'll kill you, die, and he comes in, and he nails Sanji again, and Sanji in this panel just goes flying back. And we're thinking, man, this is not good. I like this character, but I don't know if he's going to make it to the next volume, right? And the chapter winds up ending shortly after that. Gin, pretty much has him at the point of where he can just kill him. And he goes and he just finally goes and he kind of gets a little choked up and he says, I can't do it. Because Don Krieg's like, what are you waiting for? Gin, kill him, right? And, Don Krieg, the dick with eyes. And Gin says, I can't do it, and he shows a flashback of when he fed him and everything like that, and and he said, here, take this, and basically he was brought him back from death, right? And Gin's just like, man, I can't. Nobody has ever showed me kindness like that, right? And I can't take his life to the only person. I can't take the life of the only person that's ever been kind and good to me. And Don Krieg's like, what? You want to say that again? And he just basically says, no, I can't do this, man. I just can't do it, right? So the chapter ends with a panel, and we can only assume that it's going to be bad. Don Krieg is basically like, you know what, fine, screw you, I'm tired of all you people. So we go and we see a shot of him going and pulling his shield, over, and we can only assume that he's going to maybe fire one of those MH5, poison balls or something. He's going to take care of it himself. So all in all, I thought it was a very fun, very action-packed chapter. Apologize, I got a little long-winded in the middle there, but I do try to bring in some experiences and parallels to just my own life and some of the things that I've maybe seen or done, and so let me know, though, nation, brothers and sisters, what you think about that in the comments down below. Feel free to hit the like button if you think that I deserve it, and certainly subscribe if you haven't done so already. We will look to catch you in the next one, which will be the finale, or the final chapter anyway, in Volume 7. Take it easy, nation. As always, thank you for watching, brothers and sisters. Be sure to subscribe and take a look at some of my other videos. Thanks. See you next time, nation.